Hey everyone, it's time for another live look at the astrology. This is October 18th through 24th, 2021. And my name is Katie Sweetman, and this is Empowering Astrology. So if you're watching live, do say hello. I'm here in the New York City area, and actually I'm right outside in Jersey City, so I know some of you are in the area, but do say hello. I just like the fact that we're all over the world. As I say from time to time, I can't travel, so I have to travel through you all. So let's talk astrology. We're coming up to the end of Libra season. I mean, that's kind of crazy because that means that we're going to be in Scorpio season, which is even crazier. But before I get started, let me just kind of quickly reintroduce myself. My name is Katie Sweetman. I'm in the New York City area, but I'm an astrologer and I'm also a psychic medium. I sort of remind people that from time to time because it brings a little bit of a unique aspect to my work. A lot of what I know of astrology is sometimes what my guides tell me about astrology. But something that they once said to me is that the astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. And I say that from week to week. And I say that because that's what's been shared with me. You know, if the astrology is just energy and it's the energy of time, then there's the you part. You know, your conscious, your unconscious, your fears, your insecurities, and the things that we do day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year is to reveal ourselves, our true self. I mean, like the part of us that's deep down inside through the astrology. So I have a little bit of a unique perspective. I'm certainly not the only astrologer out there that has a little bit more of a holistic perspective. And segue, actually, I am going to start doing more teaching of astrology. A lot of you are my clients, or you write me and you say, what do you recommend to learn astrology? Because I want to learn astrology. So finally, this is a bit of a soft launch, but I am launching what's called Module 1 of my teaching of astrology. And this is just my perspective. Of course, there's lots of different ways to look at astrology because astrology is a language. And I do have the link in the show notes, but you can go to empoweringastrology.com/learn. That's more information about my first module. There's also an option to also do a live class with me on November 6th, Saturday, November 6th. More details are going to come. Definitely sign up for my newsletter. The link to sign up for my newsletter is also in the show notes, or you can email me directly for more information at empoweringastrology@gmail.com. But the idea is that these are like online modules that you can take yourself. And then there's that self-study. But then, of course, we're going to also do some, not one-on-one, but some group work. So you all can learn astrology in the way that I've been taught by my guides, or the way that I've learned by taking everything apart and putting things back together. Because I was 20-year background in IT. I know you all probably don't know that, but that's sort of that way that I look at astrology. It's just like code, it's math. I'm the daughter of an engineer. So astrology is just a different type of engineering. So for me, it's fascinating. I get to share it with you every week, and that's kind of crazy. But thank you all for joining me week after week. We got a lot of things going on this week. We have Mercury Mercury direct today, Monday, October 18th. And we also have Jupiter direct Monday, October 18th. And this is sort of the end of this boom, boom, boom series of planets turning direct in October of 2021. Just your friendly reminder is that retrogrades are not bad. They're just a time. It's like a yin phase. It's an energy. The energy pulls in. It's receptive. It's not active. This is why we're typically not, I don't want to say supposed to, but it's typically a time when we reflect, we intuit, we look inward, we assess, we analyze, instead of making choices, going forward, taking action. That's more of an active or yang, masculine type energy, because life is just a plus and a minus on the battery, energetically. But when a planet turns direct, we're in a different phase of its energy. It's no longer receptive, it's now active. And typically when planets turn direct, especially when there's a series of planets that turn direct, there's a sense of things are moving forward, or there's a change in the story, or we see things differently. But I know that Mercury went retrograde. Oh gosh, I can't remember. I think it was earlier, late last month. But it's been retrograde in Libra, and this has been a 3-week period to look at how we do relationships. How do we connect, communicate, interact? What's fair? What's balanced, in the sense of like relationships need balance and harmony. It can't be too much one way or too much the other way, which in a way is at the heart of this week's full moon in Aries on Wednesday, October 20th. Libra tells us that we can't do life alone. We need relationship, we need partnership, we need other people's perspectives. Imagine living in a vacuum where you have no idea what other people's feedback, comments, perspective, interactions, and you meet somebody after being in a vacuum for years, and then it's like you crash into the other person because you have no sense of their needs, their wants, how to compromise, how to socialize and interact. These are very important skills to be a human. But we can't be so overly accommodating. We can't be so putting our needs on the back burner that we just get pushed over by people. So this is a week with the Aries full moon. It's going to be at 27 degrees of Aries, so near the very end of Aries, where we have to learn to individuate, to stand up for ourselves, to defend or advocate what we need and want in a relationship. So there's this natural push, pull, tension in the Aries Libra axis. It's the relational axis. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is typically go out there and get it. It's the hunter. Libra is the gatherer, so to speak. I got my red on for the Aries full moon this week. But then later this week, we're going to go into some I'll go back to Mercury and Jupiter. I'm kind of going quickly through the week, but we will go into Scorpio season on the October 23rd. So we're at the last stretch of Libra season this week. And I think that to go back to Mercury turning direct today on October 18th, like we've had our work cut out for us. This isn't your typical Libra season. Mars has been in Libra. Mars has really been spurring us to take action, connect, interact, socialize. But Mars can also bring things to a head when it's in a sign that it doesn't rule, and it's sort of poking at things and pushing on buttons while it's in Libra. When Mercury turned direct this morning, at least here in the New York City, Mercury turned opposite Chiron. So it's sort of this ending, so to speak, to this Mercury retrograde phase, but it's doing so by pressing on a pain point. So if today's felt a little bit emotional, or maybe something deep bubbled up, that's because Mercury turned direct in opposition to Chiron. Chiron's in Aries. And, even though this full moon's not an aspect to Chiron, it's certainly in the same room as Chiron, and I think that it's important to understand that Chiron and Aries can go one of two ways. We have to have the courage and bravery to stand up for ourselves, to fight for ourselves, to the courage and bravery to move on or to move forward. But sometimes Chiron and Aries shows where we sometimes are too aggressive. We don't learn to listen to other people. We can be frustrated. We can feel stuck. Chiron and Aries can show where we are overly individuated, meaning we don't need anybody, but that's the thing. We do. And sometimes we get really stuck in the singularity and individuality of Aries that we take on the world, and that's not balanced. And that's why Libra is the scales. Libra is the midpoint of the zodiac. It's the equinox, and now we need to put things back into harmony and back into balance. So this full moon that we are going to have in a couple of days, it's 2 weeks after the Libra new moon. We had a Libra new moon on October 6th, and so here we are 2 weeks later. Now it's a full moon. So typically things that began around the new moon, things are now coming to a head with the full moon. We have to make decisions, take action. and move forward. The other thing, before I get too much into the Aries full moon, Jupiter turns direct. Jupiter has been retrograde since May. The outer planets, when I say outer planets, I say Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. They spend 5 to 6 months out of the year retrograde. So this is the thing, we get really uptight about Mercury retrograde. I'm not saying Mercury retrograde isn't a thing. It is a thing, but I think that we sometimes forget that all planets, except for the sun and the moon, turn retrograde. This is a comment that was on YouTube that I think I meant to go back and answer and I forgot. But somebody said, well, why doesn't the sun and the moon turn retrograde? Well, because astrology is from the perspective of Earth, and the Earth is going around the sun, so the sun's not going to go retrograde. The reason a planet goes retrograde is that it's an illusion. It's a optical illusion. It's because of orbital speed, and the planet where Mercury or any planet really is in relational to the sun in its own orbit. Is it in front of the sun or is it behind the sun? And so in its process of its own rotation around the sun, it appears to go backwards. So the planets that are closer in, Mercury, it's close to the sun. It's has an orbital period of 88 days, but it will spend 3 to 4 times out of the year retrograde at 3 to 4 weeks at a time. That's why we know it so much, and so we get really frustrated and things are confusing and things don't quite run on our timeline. But it's just your friendly reminder. Look, I'm human. Things don't always go smooth for me either during Mercury retrograde, but it's just a reminder that we're not always meant to push forward. Like the tide goes out, the tide goes in. So Jupiter, it's a little bit different than Mercury, apart from the fact that it's been retrograde since May. It turned retrograde in Pisces because it had dipped into Pisces, I think also in May, and then it went as far as 2 degrees, or did it turn retrograde in June? One of those things I can't remember off the top of my head. But it went as far as 2 degrees of Pisces, and then it went back to Aquarius. So it turns direct today at 22 degrees of Aquarius. And Jupiter in Aquarius. Well, Jupiter is the planet that inspires us to look beyond ourselves. We have sun and the moon are the lights of the chart that talk about the self and personality and temperament and the ego and feelings. But Mercury, it's our voice, our communication, how we think, listen, and learn. You get, Venus, you get to Mars. These are all personal planets that talk about, how do we exist in life on a personal level. But then you get to Jupiter, it's a societal planet. Jupiter and Saturn belong to this class of planets where, at least with Jupiter's trying to get us to look beyond ourselves. It's the planet of higher education, wisdom and philosophy, religion. It's the planet that inspires us to find answers, whether it's going to school, meaning going to university or college, or hopping on a plane and going to another country, or to learn about, try to find answers in a philosophy or religion. It's very external, but also there's the internal side of Jupiter. It's feminine or yin. Jupiter, where it tries to find answers within. That's through meditation and spirituality and self-reflection, for example. So without Jupiter, we wouldn't leave our homes, wouldn't leave our towns. We would not think to educate ourselves about the world or about existential questions. We wouldn't travel. We wouldn't seek out wisdom and knowledge. We wouldn't form opinions. So Jupiter turning direct, or rather when Jupiter is retrograde, at the time when we have to reassess what we believe in. What's our faith? What's our truth? And I think with Sagittarius, the South Node in Sagittarius right now, that's the thing. There isn't one capital T truth. We have to sort of look at new ways of thinking of things. North Node is in Gemini. So Jupiter turning direct says, okay, now it's more of that active Jupiter. Jupiter now wants to look outwardly into the world. It wants to move. It wants to go forward. It's in Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign of humanity and society and community. It's a very intellectual sign, so Jupiter is a bit of a smarty pants in Aquarius. But Jupiter is trying to teach us about the world through Aquarius. So it's teaching us about the facets of humanity, the social causes, the things that both unite us and divide us as humans. So we've had this time to reflect and integrate. Jupiter had something called its Great Conjunction back in December. It does that every 20 years. So this is sort of that last hurrah of Jupiter in Aquarius, and it leaves Aquarius, just by the way, it leaves Aquarius on December 28th. It goes back into Pisces. It sort of clips in and out of Pisces throughout 2022, Pisces, Aries. But yeah, Jupiter turns direct. So my mutable signs, my Geminis, my Sagittariuses, my Virgos, and my Pisces, 2 of your main planets are turning direct today because those 2 planets rule your angles. Sorry, it's a technical point. So my mutable signs might see more forward movement today. Things that have been stalled or things that have been more internal are now external. Now we go to the Aries full moon. So Aries full moon, again, it's going to be at 27 degrees of Aries, the energy of this full moon. Aries is it's the first sign of the zodiac. It talks about new beginnings, new initiatives, new actions, moving forward, standing up for ourselves, knowing how to individuate. I think also to set healthy boundaries, or at least to defend our boundaries with Aries. But this is, again, a full moon that's really activating relational energy, because Libra and Aries are the relational axis of the zodiac. But this full moon, it packs a little bit of a bite. So a couple of things to point out. This full moon, it opposes Mars. So you have a full moon, which already has a lot of energy and tension, emotional tension, and then it's opposite Mars. So it's a trigger. It's a trigger for something. It could be a trigger for a positive new beginning, or spurring you all to take action with something. I will say Aries and Mars energy, it's very physical. It needs a physical outlet. So it's great for athletes or people that want to do something like a healthy physical initiative. It needs to do something. This is energy that just can't sit around. So try to give this energy a job. Otherwise, Mars might kind of set fires, so to speak. And that's the thing, like a full moon opposite Mars can bring something to the surface, something to a boil, so to speak. It may mean, it's kind of hitting some alarm bells in your life, and you now have to pay attention. That's the thing about Mars. We cannot sleep on Mars. And then, Mars is in Libra, so it's really exacerbating or highlighting a tension in a relationship or a need to make a change. Speaking of which, this full moon makes a square to Pluto. Pluto's hanging out right now at, I think, 25 or 24 of 24 degrees of Capricorn. And that's pretty close. It's a pretty close square. So Mars and Pluto energy, you see it a lot in professional athletes, because it's that drive and that force that you need to compete and to endure. Mars and Pluto energy, it also needs to reform and transform how we do Mars. How do we, fight for ourselves or take action or move forward? So Pluto has a tendency to bring something to the surface, something that is previously unconscious, into the conscious. So pay attention to what's coming up this week. How is that holding a mirror to you? That's the thing about Pluto, is sometimes we like to project onto other people. It's her problem, it's his problem, it's their problem. But that's the thing about Pluto, is that it often reveals something deep within ourselves. So I think that with this full moon, it may be pressing buttons. There might be a positive side. There might be a not so positive side. It's the thing about energy. It has, 2 sides. But I think whatever does happen, it needs some sort of transformation and reformation. That's the Pluto energy. But this full moon also makes a trine to Jupiter. And that's the thing about a Jupiter trine, is that there's some opportunity in all of this. At the very least, it's an opportunity to learn something, to gain wisdom. But I'm hoping that there's an opportunity or a silver lining in anything that might come up that's pointed. Mars can certainly be a bit pointed, especially when it's in a square to Pluto. But I think that ultimately because the energy of this full moon really just kind of boils back to Saturn in Aquarius. I think that this, again, it's a relational, it's friends, it's community, and there's a need to really make some changes and shifts. I will quickly say this because I do want to kind of jump into the signs. This full moon, it's next month in November 19th, actually, we're going to have a full moon in Taurus at 27 degrees of Taurus. That one's actually an eclipse. So we're a month away from a lunar eclipse. And I just put this on your radar because it's very typical astrology that you start to see some eclipse story or some eclipse energy even a month before, especially as the moon gets into Taurus later this week. Then the sun's going to go into Scorpio on Saturday the 23rd. I'm going to save Scorpio for next week, focus mostly on Aries today, but I just wanted to start to put the eclipses on your radar. I need to get my act together, but I will be doing a webinar on the lunar eclipse and also the solar eclipse on December 4th and what that means for you. Stay tuned. So let's look at the astrology this week for each sign. So again, this is October 18th through 24th, 2021. Oh my gosh, I do not want to go back to 2020. I'm pretty sure all you would feel the same. So Aries. So this full moon is in your sign. So every year we all get a full moon in our sign. It's typically a time when we are in the spotlight, meaning eyes are on us, something's happening in our life. There's a need to take action, to move forward, to do something. That's the thing. I don't think with the full moon in your sign, Aries, you're sitting still. Even with Mars, your planet, over in your relationship sign of Libra. So this is a little bit of a hot full moon. If you are in a relationship, Aries, see what's going on between you and a partner. If you're not in a relationship, this can mean something that's happening between you and another person. I think it's important to understand that Pluto, which is making the square to this full moon, it's at the top of your chart. It's been there for almost 14 years. But there is an element of needing whatever changes that you make between you and another person or you in relationships in general. It has to, in a way, affect or transform on a larger level. I think that just for you to understand, Aries, that Pluto has been in your career sign or in Capricorn since January 2008. Your professional life, how you put yourself out there in the world, the title after your name, the responsibilities that you carry has been in a state of massive transformation for 14 years. I know that's a long time, but that's just to sort of understand that this is a full moon that's picking up on a much older story. But I think there's a lot of pressure for you to make some lasting changes, Aries, especially in how you connect, interact, and socialize with other people and how that impacts you on a larger whole, your ambitions, your responsibilities, and the direction that you take your life. Taurus. If you were listening to my introduction, we're a month out from a full moon lunar eclipse in your sign. That lunar eclipse is going to highlight a lot of the personal changes that you've been making over the last 2-3 years, but we will talk about that later. So Taurus, Aries is your 12th sign. The 12th sign is the last sign of anybody's chart. And in a way, you've come to the end of something. It's a symbolic ending. It's a need to release and to let go. The irony to this full moon is that it's so much about, Aries is about action and it's passion and desire and drive. It's typically a sign that's very external, but this is happening in a part of your chart that's not external. It's internal. So there's a need, the push and the pull that's happening with this full moon is happening between your 6th and your 12th. So about health, wellness, how you take care of your physical body, how do you take care of your spiritual body? your addictions, your attachments. That's the thing about a full moon in the 12th. It's a really great opportunity, if you want to look at it that way, to let go of something that you've been previously attached to. And I say this with love, Taurus. You're a sign that just by instinct wants to attach to things. You're an earth sign. You like to accumulate. You're ruled by Venus. But whether it's something that you own physically, or a pattern, or a habit, or an emotion, or addiction, use this full moon to really make a reformation and to transform, because you've got Pluto up in your 9th sign, and a lot of the deep work that you've been doing over the last 10, 13, 14 years is to really transform how you see yourself in the world, what you believe in, your faith, your truth, and even the patterns that drive a lot of your beliefs and your thinking. And maybe these are things that were true, aren't true anymore, and maybe these are things that were never true. Nevertheless, Libra season is a time for you to focus on your physical health, and as you make positive changes in your physical or day-to-day life, that may mean that you have to let go of something. That said, this full moon does highlight a need for inner truth, inner meaning, spirituality, faith, and retreat. And maybe those are ways in which that energy shows up over the course of this week. Gemini. This full moon is in your 11th sign. So the 11th sign is about your place in the world, your friends, your community, society, your hopes and your dreams and your wishes for the future. You're starting, well, I will say this full moon it arcs towards a part of the chart that's more outwardly. Like, this is your time in the calendar, your full moon, Gemini, to look outwardly, like meaning like sorry, I don't know why my brain just got tripped up. Sorry, Gemini, I got a Gemini moon. Meaning you've got next month, not that next month, but there will eventually be a movement towards your professional life. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that we all have ambitions in life, and we work towards that ambitions. We have responsibilities and we have duties. And so it's like, what's next? So maybe this full moon is trying to get you to look outwardly and to think about what you want your future to look like, and how do you take actions towards that future. See, I did it. I know Mercury just turned direct, so sorry about that, Gemini. But that full moon also highlights the importance of friends and community and connection, and needing to decide who your friends are, who your community is. And maybe there is a tension going on between you and your individuality, and how that connects or creates some tension with other people. So how do you maintain your individuality with friendships, or how do you find the people that are really going to appreciate who you are? Pluto is in your 8th sign. It's been your 8th sign since 2008. So Gemini, you're like a decade plus into a very long story of really deeply transforming parts of you that I think a lot of people don't even realize that you've been doing. I think that's the thing about having a Capricorn, this part of your chart, Gemini, is that you play this work that you've been doing a little bit close to the vest. Normally your external demeanor is a little quick, chatty, breezy, but not what's been happening deep inside. And maybe that's why 2018, 2019, 2020 were a little bit potentially very difficult for you, Gemini. That said, this is a time to look outward into your future, to hope and to dream for something better, and to make sure that you have friends and allies that are in alignment with those hopes and dreams. Cancer. Aries is your 10th sign. So the 10th sign is about career. It's your place in the world, title after your name, the drive and the direction, the things that you sort of steer your life towards. Typically, when there's a full moon in the career sign, it tends to be event-oriented in our professional life. We get a new job. There is a job change. We go off in a different direction. We get recognized for our hard work. We're in the spotlight in some way professionally. Even if you don't have a typical quote-unquote career, this is a time for you to to step up to your responsibilities or to be recognized for the responsibilities and duties that you carry. We probably, regardless of whether you have a traditional career or not, we all have duties and responsibilities that we have in the world. But this part of the chart is also about, well, where do we steer the ship of our life towards? So there's a need to really take action to steer the ship of your life in some particular direction. Cancer, that said, a full moon typically wants you to make some sort of decision. Sometimes that decision is made for you, but this might be a time when you really have to make a decision about your life. That decision may impact your home environment, home and family, your living situation, because Mars, the ruler of that full moon, is down at the bottom of the chart. Maybe you've seen, Cancer, some changes in your home environment the past, 4 weeks. How long has Mars been in Libra? Since the end of September, I think. But that said, you do have Pluto in your relationship sign. It's been there for the last 13, 14 years. So you've been doing a lot of really deep work, Cancer, around relationships. So whatever is happening in your professional life, it somehow has an impact on your home environment, but also relationships, whether it's a primary relationship or how you connect with people in a general level. Maybe this is a move, maybe this is a need to really stand up for yourself, maybe this is a need to have a very different relationship with a partner, a romantic partner, a committed partner, or even somebody directly influencing your life. Or maybe this is a time for you to really step up in the world and to go after what you really want. It's after Cancer. Leo, this full moon is in your 9th sign, and the 9th sign is all about, what do you believe in? What's your truth? What's your faith? I will say, because it's Aries and you are a fire sign, Leo, and Aries is also a fire sign, is that typically when there's a full moon in this area of your chart, you got things to say. You have opinions. You're trying to launch something out there in the world, publishing, media, or it's a time to really focus on education. So typically, this is a lot more action-oriented. You do have Mars over in your 3rd sign. So this is a full moon, or at least a lunar month, where it is about education. But because it's Aries, it wants to take action. It wants to move forward. It wants to go off into the world. This is a time that's also about travel. I realize travel is a little bit funky at the moment, but maybe you're thinking about long distance travel, foreign travel, distant shores, places that you would much rather like to be. But that said, this is a time for you to get very clear about what you believe in, what's your truth, what's your faith, and to really share your wisdom and knowledge with the world. That said, you do have Pluto in your 6th sign, where it's been for the last 13, 14 years. And some of the tension that's happening is in either how you work, how you organize your day. Are you a workaholic? Do you not do you not focus and work at all, or do you need to have greater discipline in your life? But there is a need to work on your physical health, or to purify something in your life, or to transform something in your day-to-day life, because I'm pretty sure, Leo, if you look back 13 years, something about your day-to-day life, or even like your relationship with your body, looks very different. So yes, there is this, I was talking about education for Leo, but really, whatever you believe in, even if it's not helpful, maybe that's where the Pluto tension's showing up, that you need to make a change in what you believe in, so that can transform something about your health, your wellness, your day-to-day life, the work that you do, and the duties and responsibilities that you have. But nevertheless, this is a time when you probably have lots to say. Just don't shoot your mouth off, Leo. Virgo. So this full moon is putting the spotlight on your 8th sign. And maybe you've heard me say for other signs at different points throughout our time together, is that the 8th sign is the part of the chart where you have to go and face yourself. I call it the 8th room, meaning it's a space that we all have to inhabit, whether it's a day whether it's a year, whether it's a full moon, where we have to do the deep work. It just so happens for you, Virgo, that this is the full moon where you have to do some deep work. You have to face yourself. You have to feel a little bit tested by life. You have to get a little bit uncomfortable. I'm very sorry, Virgo. But that's just sort of what happens. We need to have that emotional discomfort because that's what helps us to create something very different in our life. But that said, this is a time when deep and powerful and even passionate emotions are coming to the surface, things that have been previously buried, even secrets, the things that you don't normally share in the public. It's really just amongst your close inner circle. It's about intimacy and vulnerability. On a more mundane level, this is a full moon where you have to make some sort of decision about a financial matter. It could be about estate planning, it could be insurance, it could be about a partner's money. But nevertheless, this is a time that's really looking at your financial life, what you need in order to feel safe and secure in the world. I will say that Pluto has been in your fifth sign for 13 to 14 years. In that part of your chart, it's like you go back and you see the version of self that you were decade plus ago. It's very different. At least that's the idea. It's supposed to be very different because you've been in this really intense time, Virgo, where you need to get out of your own way. And Pluto is doing it by any means possible. It's stripped you down. It's trying to get you back to who you really are. And so maybe that's at the forefront of this time in the eighth room. It's like, well, who are you? How do you self-sabotage or self-destruct, Virgo? And this full moon is really putting a spotlight on what that is. Nevertheless, Libra season, especially Mars in Libra, is really kind of getting to these questions about stability, security, value, worth, self-worth. So a need to do a lot of deep work in order for you to come back, Virgo, and create new stability and security in your life. Oh yeah, by the way, Virgo, your planet is now direct, Mercury is now direct, and maybe you feel like you can move a little bit forward, but all I will say, Mercury did turn direct opposite Chiron, so maybe a little bit of a thornier issue is coming up this week for you, Virgo. Libra. Libra, this full moon is in your relationship signs. So it's like, happy birthday, by the way. I know you're coming to the end of your season, Libra. If your birthday is, what's today? So if your birthday is around the 20th of October, plus or minus a couple of days, this is a year ahead. It's kind of typically, it's like the conventional wisdom is if you have a new moon or a full moon on your birthday, plus or minus a couple of days, the coming year is different in some way. A full moon says that the coming year is a time where things are full. You have to take action. You're in the spotlight in some way. Life is not quiet and boring for you right now. And certainly to have a full moon in your relationship sign is not quiet and boring. You have to make a decision about a relationship. If you are in an intimate relationship or an intimate partnership, where do you and a partner stand? Do you and a partner need to make changes? Does the relationship need to end, or does it need to reconfigure? Does it need to have new structures, new connections? I will say Mars is over in your sign right now, Libra. And of course, this is also for Libra rising. You're not a pushover right now, Libra. That's the thing about having Mars in your own sign is like, normally you just defer to somebody else, but not with Venus, or not Venus, not with Mars in your sign, Libra. So it's like this full moon where it's like, you got to really stand up for yourself. You got to really advocate for your needs, your wants, your desires. And I think the thing that's a little bit sticky about this full moon for you is that Pluto is down at the bottom of your chart. So whatever is coming up with you and another person, whether it is an intimate partner or somebody else, look at how it has its roots in home and family and childhood and growing up and mom and dad, because Pluto has been doing a lot of deep psychic work over the last 13, 14 years, ever since it arrived in your fourth sign in January of 2008. The idea is that Pluto is like excavating all the stuff that's almost like soil that is toxic, that doesn't support you anymore. But meanwhile, that's the kind of stuff that feeds into relationships. So really looking at relationship dynamics this week, the healthy relationship dynamics, the not so healthy relationship dynamics, and how changing something about home and family or the past, or how you were unconsciously raised to interact with people, how that can truly transform, because that's the beauty, but sometimes pain about Pluto, is that these things do and can shift, but it does take a lot of deep work. But if you are not in a relationship, again, this does include how you connect and interact and socialize, Libra. But if you're not in a relationship, this could be the full moon that really pushes you to make a connection with somebody, should that be what you want. But it's probably going to be a bit of a hot week for you, Libra. Scorpio. Happy almost early birthday, Scorpio. If your birthday's on the 23rd, 24th, certainly you are dipping into this week. But Aries is your sixth sign. The sixth sign is about work and projects and health and wellness. And I think this is why Scorpio can be a little bit of a workaholic, because it's sixth sign. It's Aries, and Aries just needs to do something. I can't sit still. So Scorpio's like, well, I guess I'll build my empire or something. So Mars, or rather this full moon, is putting the spotlight on work and projects, a project that you've been working on, or something with your work or day-to-day life. It's asking you to take action. But this full moon is also talking about the interplay between your physical health and your spiritual health, your physical life and your non-physical life. And I think with Libra season, and especially Mars, because you're what's called ruled by Mars, Scorpio, your planet is in the 12th sign right now. It's not going to go into Scorpio until October 30th. So you're sort of in a mode of rest. It's not about taking action. See how you feel. After the 30th, Mars goes into Scorpio, and everybody look out, because Scorpio is going to have a lot of power and strength in the zodiac. But that said, Scorpio, you have to rest. You have to take care of your health at this point. You can't push forward. You have to get rest, to lay low, to do a lot of inner searching and meaning. I think the thing about the tension with the Pluto square, and Pluto is squaring Mars, and you are Mars ruled. So this is really trying to push something internal and spiritual and unconscious with you, Scorpio. But I think with Pluto down in your third sign, you have to look at the choices that you make in life, because yes, the third sign is about voice and communication. Certainly you need to really find your voice and to communicate differently than you did a decade ago. But also this place in the chart is about the choices that you make. Is it a left or a right, or an up or a down? And maybe sometimes you make choices that are counter to your greater good. I don't know. So maybe you're having to really do some soul searching and deep diving into yourself to see where you get in your own way, Scorpio, or you make choices that go against you or go against your better interest, or maybe even are not the best healthy choices. That said, this is about project, this is about work and organization, and making very different choices in your life, but also releasing and letting go and preparing for the next cycle when Mars goes into Scorpio on October 30th. Mars will be in Scorpio into the beginning ish, maybe the first couple of weeks of December. So yeah, you're going to have a lot of fire and power for your birthday, Scorpio. But that said, really don't push right now, even though I know you want to, but see how you feel in a few days. Sagittarius. So Sag, your fifth sign is Aries, and this full moon is putting, in a way, you in the spotlight, but more like what makes you you, personality, identity, self-expression. This is a time when you are really focusing on having fun, really being yourself. If you have any sort of creative leaning in you, this is a time to really put a spotlight on something creative, something that you're really trying to bring into this world. I will say this does include children, in case pregnancy and children is something that's on your radar. But this full moon is really asking you to be yourself. But here's the thing, you have Mars over in your 11th, so there's a bit of a tension and a push and a pull that's happening between you and a friend, or you and your community, or you and the world at large. And it's like, well, can I be myself? Is it safe to be myself? Will the world recognize what I'm trying to create, or who I'm trying to be, or rather, how am I trying to express myself? Because the reality is, there's only one us, and it lives inside of us. So we don't have to be anything or anyone except for ourselves. And that's not always so easy. And you've had Pluto in your second sign since January of 2008. So it has been a long period of your life about money, the things that you own and value, and how that's shifted over the last decade. And this does include self-worth. So if this full moon is putting you in a spotlight in a way, and you're like, can I be myself? Well, there's the tension that's also happening in the part of the chart that talks about value and worth. So yes, Sagittarius, you have to have faith that you are enough, that you are valuable and worthy. That's where that push and pull intention is that your work or your talents can be out there in the world. And I will say Jupiter is your planet. It rules you, Sagittarius, or it rules your chart if you're Sag rising. And it's now direct in Aquarius. So you've sort of had this 5-month period since, I believe it's May, could be June, where you had to really, go back and reflect and think. So it's a little bit more of a direct time for you. And maybe this full moon is really spicing things up and getting things moving in your life, Sagittarius. Capricorn. So this full moon is happening in your 4th sign. The 4th sign is a home and family. It's the roots that you put down, the roots that you need to put down, Capricorn. But it's like, well, where's home? Who's home? And typically when there's a full moon in this part of the chart, there is a move, or there's a change in the household, or there's a change in your living environment. It's a time when you need to focus back on your home, because you have the sun in Libra at the top of your chart, which is about career and your place in the world. And especially with Mars over there, it's like you're probably working a lot, or there's probably a lot going on in your professional life. So you've been a little bit disconnected from home or family, or disconnected from what you need in order to feel supported in this life. So this full moon's a reminder. It's like you can have all the work or all the glory in the world, but don't forget to take care of what's deep inside of you, Capricorn. But that said, there's a lot of things going on with family. Mars is up at the top of the chart. Yes, it's about being at a career peak right now, or really pushing what the responsibilities and your ambitions out into the world. Maybe a lot's going on in your professional life at the moment, but don't forget that Pluto has been in Capricorn since January of 2008. And you have had to make a lot of profound and sometimes not very easy transformations. Pluto will leave Capricorn in March of 2023. It goes in and out of Aquarius. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm just to acknowledge all the deep work that you've been doing since 2008, Capricorn. I think this full moon is even it could be a new moon, it could be a full moon, it could be something else that's going on, but you're always checking back with the fact that Pluto is in the room with you. It's been in the room with you over the last decade. You are not the same, and certainly if you were born towards the end of Capricorn, you are feeling Pluto's presence right now versus those that were born the beginning of Capricorn. You felt that a decade ago, but nevertheless, Pluto is in the room with you. Something has to shift, something has to transform, something has to transform about your relationship with home and family and getting your needs met, or really knowing what your needs are at this time. So this is a little bit of a hot full moon for you, Capricorn. Saturn is your planet. It's now direct. So things are moving forward, but first, maybe it's a time when you have to see where you're a little bit in the way of yourself right now. But and so you can always get out there and do what you need to do in the world, Capricorn. Aquarius. Aquarius, this full moon is in your third sign, and the third sign is about voice, communication, how you think and listen and learn. And maybe you have lots to say right now, Aquarius. This is a time when your educational axis is highlighted at the moment. You know, Libra season for you is a time that's about higher education or specialized education, but also a time when you are really thinking more about the world and what you believe in, your faith, your truth. And I think this full moon is just a reminder, no matter what you believe in, you have to get back to the source material. You'll have to get new perspectives. You have to do your research. And so maybe this is a full moon where you're learning, or you're cracking the books, or you're trying to gather the information that you need in order to reassess if what something is, if it's true or not. It is a time when maybe travel is highlighted, I will say, because it's Aries. It's probably going to be a busy week for you, Aquarius. You probably have lots of things to do, especially things to do around the neighborhood. Maybe you're thinking about travel or planning travel or making longer distance trips, Aquarius. But let's not forget that this is the part of the chart that does talk about choices. And maybe you are really trying to weigh your options right now about which way you want to go in life, and sort of looking at and I guess consulting your own wisdom and knowledge or things out in the world to try to make the choice easier. Let's not forget that Pluto is in your 12th sign. It's been your 12th sign for 13, 14 years. So you've been doing a lot of deep work on the unconscious over the last decade. So this is the Pluto in the 12th is not so overt. It shows up in your dreams. It shows up kind of in the back of your mind. It's in the subconscious, unconscious. But your relationship with spirituality and your spiritual life and what is beyond this physical life has undergone massive transformations over the last decade. So maybe something about truth and faith and meaning and really shifting your beliefs that's coming up for you this week. Pisces. So here we are. We're at the end of the zodiac, and Pisces, Aries is your second sign. The second sign is about money and income, how we spend it, how we earn it, how we value it, and even how we value ourselves. So this full moon puts money in the spotlight, but also this sense of what do you need in order to feel safe in the world. Aries, it's the hunter. This is the thing about Pisces, is that Aries is Pisces' second house. And that Pisces, we think of Pisces as sort of the sign that likes to float, but it's certainly very motivated, Aries, to get grounded and to create material stability and security for itself. At least that's the idea. But there is this push and pull and tension that's happening between your second and your eighth sign. So it's money, it's finance, it's what you own, it's what somebody else owns, it's inheritances, it's possessions, it's facing your fears, it's looking at themes around intimacy and vulnerability, Pisces, including sexuality. So this is a time where it's like, okay, well, am I safe? How do I put my feet, or my Pisces fins, back on the earth? Because this is a very earthy part of your chart. And I think where you're doing a lot of the work right now, Pisces, this really long story, 14 years of Pluto being in your 11th sign. So the thing that's had to shift over the last decade is your relationship with your friends, your community, the people you thought were friends a decade ago that are not your friends now. And I think needing to have a really different relationship with the world at large. So I think that as you are sort of doing a lot of deeper work this week, Pisces, I think ultimately it is pointing towards the need to shift your aspirations, your hopes, your dreams for the future, but also your relationship with your community, with your friends, and how you get the support that you need. But I will also add, Pisces, that Jupiter, your planet, is now turned direct in Aquarius. It will go into Pisces next spring. I realize that could be autumn for those in the southern hemisphere. I can't remember the date, but I know it's in 2022. It will go back into Pisces. So my point is that you've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, especially with Saturn also in Aquarius. So Pisces, you're in a place where it's a bit more of a liminal time in your life. It's a little bit harder to move forward because you're having to do so much deep internal work right now. So as Jupiter moves direct this week, really think about the things that you don't want to bring with you into 2022. Maybe this is the deeper emotions that this full moon is highlighting, but what do you not want to bring with you into 2022, and use the astrology of this week to let it go. So that is your look at the astrology of October 18th through 24th, 2021. My name is Katie Sweetman. This has been Empowering Astrology. You can follow me online at empoweringastrology.com. Book a consultation with me. I know many of you are my clients. It's really nice to see you all week after week. And as I said at the top of the show, I'm teaching more and I'm releasing. It's a bit of a soft launch because I try not to put too much pressure on myself, but these online, I know you all, time after time, you ask me about learning astrology. Well, here, I'm creating the structure, I'm creating the materials for you to be able to learn astrology and to learn it in my own way. Of course, there's many ways to learn astrology, a lot of different perspectives, but I have my own perspectives. So again, thank you all for joining me. I will see you all next week. We will talk about Scorpio season. And until then, take care. Bye.